Hi guys, it's Miss Trish. I'm going to be reading you a story today. If you can't tell, it's going to be about space. For my friend Ben, I am wearing my NASA shirt. Because I know, unfortunately, he got to miss going to NASA. But he and I have actually, and a lot of kids in K2 have talked about this woman right here. And this is actually a non-fiction story, so it's a true story. It's called Counting on Katherine, How Katherine Johnson Saved Apollo 13. So it was written by Helene Becker, so she's the author, and the illustrator was Dow Humperink. Sorry if I'm getting names wrong. So, Counting on Katherine. Katherine loved to count. She counted the steps in the road, the steps up to church, the number of dishes and spoons she washed in the bright white sink. The only thing she didn't count were the stars in the sky. Only a fool, she thought, would try that. Even so, the stars sparkled her imagination. What was out there? Katherine yearned to know as much as she could about numbers, about the universe, about everything. Katherine's boundless curiosity turned her into a star student. She was so bright she skipped 3 whole grades. She catapulted right past her brother. He wasn't too happy about that. By the time she turned 10, Katherine was ready for high school. But back then, America was legally segregated by race, which means they were separated by race. Her town's high school didn't admit black students of any age. Katherine burned with fury. She wanted more than anything to keep learning. There was still so much to know. Count on me, Katherine's father told her. By working night and day, he earned enough money to move the family to a town with a black high school. Katherine loved high school. She was good at every subject. But math was still her favorite. She dreamed of becoming a research mathematician, making discoveries about the number of patterns that are the foundation of our universe. In those days, though, there were no jobs in research mathematicians for women. Professions mostly available to them were teaching and nursing. So Katherine became an elementary school teacher. She liked her job and she loved her students, but she never stopped dreaming about exploring numbers. In the 1950s, the U.S. government's National Advisory Committee on Aeronautics, the NACA, hired thousands of new employees, even started hiring black women as mathematicians. Katherine heard about the mathematician jobs. Her heart raced with excitement. Perhaps her dream could come true, after all. But when she applied for one of the positions, she was told they were already filled. Katherine had to wait a whole year until new spots opened up. Her patience paid off. She got the job. A few years later, the Soviet Union sent a rocket into space, launching a space race with the United States. The NACA was rolled into a new space agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. Katherine now found herself at the heart of an American space program. She worked as a computer. Electronic computers were not widely used yet. Calculating long series of numbers. All the computers were women. They were given the tasks that men thought were boring and unimportant. That didn't bother Katherine. She knew that without her contributions, a spaceship couldn't reach its destination or safely return to Earth. Here's why. Sending a rocket ship into space is like throwing a ball in the air. First, the force of the throw sends the ball up, up, up. But as its energy runs out, the ball's path curves back down towards the ground. Where it lands depends on what angle it was thrown and how high and how fast it flew. Because math is a kind of language, Katherine could ask those questions: how high would the rocket ship go and how fast would it travel? Using numbers, and numbers would provide the all-important answer: where would it land? To find out, Katherine plotted the numbers she calculated on a graph. When she joined the points together, they formed a curved line. At one end of the line was the Earth at the time the rocket ship launched. At the other end was where the Earth would be when the ship landed. Katherine's reputation for accuracy and strong leadership skills, she was known for asking plenty of questions, got her promoted to Project Mercury, a new program designed to send the first American astronaut into space. Mercury's mission was going to be very dangerous, so dangerous that even the Project star astronaut John Glenn refused to fly unless Katherine okayed the numbers. "You can count on me," she said. Glenn's spaceship, Friendship 7, orbited the Earth 3 times, returned home safely. Glenn became a national hero. Katherine was promoted again. Now she was asked to calculate the flight path for Project Apollo, the first flights to the moon. "Count on me," she said. On July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11, as the Apollo 11 astronauts walked on the moon, their feat was celebrated around the world. More triumphs followed. Apollo 12 rocketed to the moon in November of 1969. Apollo 13 launched on April 11, 1970. But on the third day of Apollo 13's flight, the worst thing happened: an explosion in space. Could the crippled spaceship make it to the moon? And if it couldn't, would it be able to get back home to Earth? The astronauts on board were in grave peril. Commander Jim Lovell told his mission control, "Houston, we have a problem." Back on Earth, Katherine Johnson got a phone call. Her flight path calculations would have to be done all over again, and perfectly. It would be the toughest challenge of her life. Katherine told Mission Control, "You can count on me." She rolled up her sleeves, took a deep breath, and began doing the math. She worked hard and fast. A few hours later, Katherine's calculations were finished. A flight path to return home would take the ship around the far side of the moon. From there, the moon's gravity would act like a slingshot and zing the ship back to Earth. To get home, the crew of Apollo 13 would have to follow Katherine's course exactly by burning off fuel at precise intervals. If the astronauts made one mistake, their ship would drift through space forever. So let's see what happens if they came home. Katherine waited anxiously to hear the astronauts report. Finally, it crackled over the loudspeakers. "We got it!" Apollo 13 was back on track. Katherine Johnson had done it. She brought Apollo 13 home. She was no longer the kid who dreamed of what lay beyond the stars. She was now a star herself. So that was counting on Katherine. As you can see, I have my little spaceship here. But it's information I would like to share with you guys. This is Katherine Johnson when she was working at NASA. And this is her later in life. She lived to be 101. She was born in August of 1918, and she passed away this past February. So she's 101. She started working at NASA in 1953. And I know we talked about John Glenn, who was a part of Friendship 7. He only trusted her calculations. They had an IBM, which was the computer at the time, and would basically take up the entire, probably the basement area where, you know, where my classroom is, and Mrs. Marchand's and Miss Pat's. And he didn't trust it. The numbers kept coming up different. So he only trusted Katherine's calculations, Katherine Johnson. He said, if she says they're good, then I'm ready to go. So he didn't trust the computer like we do now. He was like, nope, I want her. I want get me the smart one. Get me a smart girl. In 2015, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is America's highest civilian honor. Very few people get that. She got it. She also has a building named after her at NASA. So that's kind of cool to have a building named after you. Now, if you want to find out more information about the space race and all of these astronauts and all these great things that are done, you can look at nasa.org for more information on, especially about Katherine Johnson and about Dorothy Vaughan and Mary Jackson, because they worked alongside with Katherine Johnson to get Friendship 7 up in the air. Mary Jackson became one of the first African-American female engineers. I think she actually was the first. And Dorothy Vaughan taught herself how to work the IBM, so that way when the IBM started working, she would still have a job. And she knew how to work all of that. So they're great women, and we should know about them. So take a look. So remember, it's it's not nasa.org, it's nasa.gov. So take a look on there. See you guys later. Bye.